Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Today is March 4th, 2024, which is the beginning of our third month of MindMosaic. And in this month, we will be exploring a pretty awesome topic. It's fairly special to me, and that is the topic of the Earth. More specifically, call it biology, ecology, geology, the study of the Earth and the processes that happen on the Earth, our place on the Earth, how we fit into the ecosystem, how we can relate to each other through our shared connection to this planet, and as our role as stewards on this planet. Now, I happen to be in a place called La Peñita de Jaltemba, which is where I grew up. It's in Nayarit, Mexico. I'm here for a little bit with my dad. So yeah, obviously the MindMosaic videos will continue, just coming to you from a different country, which I think will be interesting, as you'll get to see different environments, different people, and we're gonna do some adventures. We're gonna explore some stuff. So I think this will be a really fun month for all of you watching, and for myself as well. But yeah, so this is episode 9, first episode of month 3, the month of Earth, study of the Earth, and today is just kind of gonna be like an intro to the Earth, welcome to Earth, sort of type of thing. I definitely have some things I want to talk about, obviously, because this topic, I mean, just talking about the Earth and things related to it is like very much a passion of mine. And so I feel like I could honestly go on for hours talking about some of the things that we're going to explore during this month. But I do also kind of want to keep it brief, just to not waste any of your time. I don't want to ramble too much. By the way, just a forward. There's going to be a lot of noise because it's a very active town here. There's a lot of cars going by. There's a lot of hustle and bustle. So the audio is not going to be perfect during this episode. Maybe we'll do some at the beach or something where it's a little quieter. But alas, yeah. So I wanted to mention right off the bat that I've heard this said before, but I think I'm gonna say it too because it's super important to stress this. I feel like not enough people have this idea in their psyche, and that is that we do not come into this world. We come out of it. That is to say, we don't emerge into or onto the earth. We emerge from the earth. In the same way that a plant does, in the same way that a tree grows out of the ground, we grow out of the ground. This is our home. This is our mother, you could say. We all share this one common ancestor that is the earth. Ultimately, we don't know the origins of life on earth. We don't know where consciousness started. We don't know how life started. Some believe that it happened in ancient oceans in in a fertile mixture of chemicals, all homogenized with water, provided the right conditions for life to emerge. That's one possible theory. Another theory is the idea of panspermia, that we came from that life could have originated on Earth because of an asteroid impact that carried some sort of seeds of life that could then root themselves into the Earth. Whichever it is, we're connected to the Earth in a way that is not trivial. We're connected to the Earth in a way that is visceral, in a tangible sense. So let me kind of go into a little bit of detail about that. Firstly, we are family. Even the most seemingly unrelated people share a common ancestor. In fact, all people share a common ancestor at some point. In fact, not just all people, but all animals share a common ancestor. At some point, you can trace back your maternal, paternal lineage to an animal that isn't human. You can trace your lineage back to animals that weren't even mammals. You can trace your lineage back to aquatic animals. And to think that those animals created lineages that led to humans, but also led to whales and birds and all kinds of different amazing, such a vast diversity of life, but it all shares these common roots. It's like when you see the skeleton of a dinosaur. A better example would be something like a dolphin. If you see a dolphin skeleton, you see the way that its bones connect through this ball and socket structure, you are seeing the resemblance between that dolphin and a human. In the same way that you would say, I see the resemblance between you and your brother, or you and your father. This isn't a metaphor. Like, this is completely literal. When you see the resemblance between two separate species, you're seeing a familial resemblance, because those two animals share a common ancestor. You and that dolphin share a great 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 grandmother, great 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 grandfather, whatever it may be. You and that Tyrannosaurus Rex, you and that whale, you and that butterfly. Literally, you are very distant cousins, but you are cousins nonetheless. And you and I are also cousins. We're much more closely related than you and I are to the, fish and the birds and the reptiles. But we are related. And when you realize that our entire web of life is one big family tree at the same time, which is actually very interesting to think about. Kind of bizarre in some ways when you stop and think about it a lot. But we're not going to go that deep today. We're going to keep it fairly surface level. We'll dive down a little bit whenever we need to. In fact, I wanted to say that that we're not just connected through our DNA. As long as you're eating, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're drinking water, as long as you're pooping, you are integrally connected to the ecosystem, to the biosphere. The air that you breathe in is the air the trees breathe out. The water moves in cycles through the atmosphere, down back to the earth, and then back up again. Your blood is made of that same water. Your cells, the matter that makes up your body, these are atoms. These are molecules. The elements that make you up, they are of this earth. It's like the connection that we share. The connection that we share is it's inherent. It's not anything that needs to be even reaffirmed in any kind of way. Although it is kind of funny that I am saying that whilst doing so in this very moment. But, whatever. Here I am. This is what I enjoy doing. I think that, our connection to each other and to this planet is something that is kind of neglected, at least in the culture in which I have found myself in a lot, at least in the culture that I see most on the internet, right? People talk about how we've severed our connection to the earth. And I think that that's a kind of a hilarious statement, because you can't. You can forget your connection. You can ignore your connection, but you can't sever your connection to the earth. Even if you die, even if you literally end your life, you are still just as much connected. In fact, you might even be more connected, because then your body is actually being recycled into the existing biosphere, back the matter and the energy that makes up your body is being recycled back into the ecosystem. And that's how it works, you know? It's like you can't sever your connection, because as long as you're breathing, you're connected. As long as you're breathing, you're still in a symbiotic relationship with the trees. As long as you're drinking water, you're still participating in the water cycle. You're a part of it. You can't not be a part of it. You can ignore your part in it, or forget. And I think that that's where we're at. But I think we're remembering, because in order for you to say we've severed our connection with nature, you need to have some understanding of the fact that there is a connection there. And I think that that's beautiful, because we are remembering that connection. Because I think it's one of the most beautiful things ever, to get to enjoy and relish in the fact that we exist as conscious life forms on this planet that we are a part of. We're a part of this planet, you know? Like, we're integral to it. We are like just as important as the sun for maintaining life. We all play a role, you know? That's ultimately what my point is that there is an intimate connection that we have to the planet. And when you're able to access it, when you're able to tap into it, you can really feel it. It's like this vitality. It's like the Force. Like in Star Wars, when they talk about the Force and how it has the light side and the dark side, but I'll just play the clip, honestly, because Yoda put it better than I ever could. So,
for my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes.
it's like that, you know? It's the unifying thing, at least on this planet. It's a shared sense of togetherness, of oneness, of being able to relate to people who you might not even know at all, and just being able to relate to them on the simple basis of we share a planet together, we share an ecosystem together. And that's like really a beautiful thing. And when you consider that, with also taking into consideration that like you're speaking to your cousin, that's your cuz, you know? Everybody is. And we're all a giant family on this planet that we are literally a part of, in this massive system that we are literally a part of. It's really like it's a true thing of beauty. It even goes beyond beauty, honestly. It's like it's so beautiful that it's like heartbreaking. I can't even really explain it. It's just like overwhelmingly meaningful. It's one of those things where it's language is kind of hard to, you can't really go there with words. Yoda gets close, but it's something you feel, obviously, you know? It's an empathetic thing. It's not really a logical thing. It's something you tune into. It's not something you know intellectually, because it kind of always evades your grasp. I don't know if I'm using that word correctly. Evades, I don't even know if that's a word, but it escapes your grasp. It escapes your mind. But when you open yourself to it in like a spiritual way, in a emotional way, in a way of like receiving what the moment is giving you, rather than trying to analyze it, rather than trying to figure it all out, in that moment it just surges through you. It permeates every cell of your being, because it always is, you know? It's the Force. It binds us, it surrounds us. It's a real thing. And I think, you know, people might disagree, but to those people I say, that's like, you're allowed to disagree, but understand that what I'm saying is not something that you really, it's not an intellectual thing. It's not even an idea. Like, I'm trying to intellectualize it in order to be able to communicate it, but it's not something that is real or not real, or it's not something that's that you know. It's not something that you think. It's something that you feel. It's something that you experience. And so to those people who would disagree with what I'm saying, I would just say, get out into nature and put your phone away and just actually just sit there, listen to the sounds, listen to the birds, breathe the air, feel the sunlight on your face. And if you do those things, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because it's better when it's unspoken, in my opinion. It's better to just kind of let you know that that's there and that it's there for you. It's accessible whenever you want. So, moving on, but not really. It's like, yeah, not even moving on. It's pretty intimately related to what I was gonna say. Is that the what I'm describing, and also in the broader context of what it means to be a member of the human race, a member of the terrestrial biosphere, to be a conscious being on a planet, on an organic planet, is that there is and I've heard people kind of reference this. It's actually very interesting because I've kind of had this idea rolling around in my head for a while and not really being able to articulate it in a way that makes sense. But then recently, and I thought that no one really felt this way, at least in, like, the North America, is this idea of the Earth is communicating in a certain way. The Earth communicates through nature, and that's very far out, obviously. But I'm gonna hone in a little bit and try and flesh this out a little bit more. From the personal anecdote that comes to mind is I was like thinking about this concept a lot and not really being able to articulate it, and then all of a sudden just literally being like scrolling on Instagram or something and finding like multiple videos of people talking about this thing, the language of nature, or the language of Earth. And it would pretty much just be a video of like different shots of like wildlife, rivers, plants, spider webs, sunbeams, cloud formations, cool rocks, worms, mushrooms, the works. And it would literally just say, it would just be like a compilation of these clips, a cool like little music thing, and it would just say on the screen, the language of Earth, the language of nature, the language of Mother Earth. And when I saw this video, I'm like, oh my god, people get it. Think about what I'm trying to explain. I'm making the claim that all things, these leaves, my body, my fingerprints, the way my heart beats, the flow of energy throughout the ecosystem, the way that different animals depend on each other, the relationships, the energy economy of nature, the patterns on like fur and feathers and scales, and the colors, the sounds, the smells, all of those things, they kind of like, in a way, they communicate an essence of sorts. It's very hard to explain. And what I was trying to say is that if that is what I'm claiming, right, which it is, think about how very difficult it is to try and communicate such a vast language into English, right? It's like translating any language is already very hard, but this language transcends language. This is a language that is ancient, first of all, and it's flawless. Like, I don't really know how else to put it. Go figure. This is what I'm saying, is that it's very difficult to put into words. And kind of similarly to the force thing that I was talking about, the vital essence of nature, is that it's not something you really think, it's something you experience. But again, I will do my best, because I think that this type of information is important, And I think that it's important for people to be able to understand these things, because it will contribute to you being able to live a better life, um, in the simplest terms. I've spent a lot of time in nature growing up, and I always felt this way. I always felt like there was something about the way in which things happen, the way that the waves move, the way that the trees grow. It's like it's communicating something in a certain way, not just to us specifically, but to everything, to itself. It's like it's reaffirming itself to itself. It's reaffirming its beauty. It's reaffirming its ferocity. It's reaffirming its grace. It's reaffirming, the multiplicity of its character, of nature's character, the many colors, the many sights, sounds, and smells that exist as potential within the mind of the earth. And I think that that is a thing, really. I mean, one thing I've thought about a lot is the idea that, like, this isn't backed by tons of science, so take this with a grain of salt. But it is interesting the way that, for example, the microbiome in your gut is literally an ecosystem. Like, it's almost indistinguishable from a jungle. The only difference is the scale of it. It's a lot smaller, right? But all the same stuff is happening. There's a food chain or a food web. There is reproduction. There's death. There's birth. All of these things are happening, all within your stomach. Every organism is an ecosystem. So then, wouldn't it follow that every ecosystem is itself an organism? This is more a logic or a thought experiment than anything else. But I do think there is evidence that would support the notion that the earth, in some way or another, is intelligent. And tons of religions and indigenous traditions have been saying this for a really long time. That's something I also want to get into. Is that the earth is intelligent, and not just through us. We are obviously intelligent. We come out of the earth. We are intelligent. So at that level, at least, the earth is intelligent. But I'm arguing that the earth is intelligent in an even greater way. I'm arguing that in some way there is a synergistic effect in which, through the communication, integration, and exchange of information between us individuals, between animals, between plants, between natural systems, through that emerges a sort of collective intelligence. If you've seen Avatar, I'm basically talking about like what they worship in Avatar. But that's just a way for like the Western mind to understand it, because again, this has been believed for literally for like thousands of years by cultures from all over the world. Like, these people know. And I think it's very important that we preserve indigenous knowledge, because they know what's up, and they've just gotten like completely screwed over, like culturally. Like, their culture, at least in like America, North and South America, mostly North and Central, but mostly North, mostly Canada, mostly the US. Their culture has been like almost entirely destroyed by colonialism. And it's such a important culture that we need to preserve. Like, out of all the cultures to be preserved, that's like those are some big ones, because it's old knowledge for one, and it's all the things. Like, it's crazy because like all of the latest like scientific discoveries are all just saying what indigenous people have been saying for generations. So it's kind of funny that Westerners come in, wipe out their culture, say it's like savagery, say it's like paganism, and then like 100, 200, or more than that, but like a few hundred years later, it's like, oh, you were right. But yeah, I think like one of the things that I definitely will and am and want to dedicate myself to is like preserving those cultures and like creating spaces where those cultures can like reemerge and flourish. And I think that like in a way, like I think we should all see that as our responsibility in a way, because like again, like because one of the like really crucial things that I think has kind of been forgotten by culture because of the eradication of indigenous culture is the fact that that as sentient beings who have the ability to influence the world, we have, I will say a responsibility to care for the world. And so in many indigenous cultures throughout history, it's been believed or it's been said that we as humans are the stewards of the earth, as in the caretakers. I find that to be like an extremely beautiful way of thinking about our place on this earth, because it makes sense. No other animal can be the stewards of this earth. A tree can't. A tree can't grow a garden, you know? A whale can't, you know, cure diseases. Humans can. Humans are like the only ones that can, you know? We have an extreme ability. I mean, it's very evident in like all the technology that we have, but it's going in a way that's separating from each other and from nature, rather than um, providing and caretaking. It's also the fact that, you know, we see ourselves as separate from nature. We've created this whole division in our minds of, you know, the natural world and the unnatural world. There's a George Carlin quote that I think is very funny, where I don't remember it exactly, but he says something like, what if Earth made humans because it wanted plastic?
The Earth doesn't share our prejudice towards plastic. Plastic came out of the Earth. The Earth probably sees plastic as just another one of its children. Could be the only reason the Earth allowed us to be spawned from it in the first place. It wanted plastic for itself. Didn't know how to make it. Needed us. Could be the answer to our age-old philosophical question, why are we here? Plastic, asshole.
And it's like, I think there's this idea, and it exists like for a just reason, that like, you know, we tend to have like a pretty devastating impact on the environment. But that perspective is somewhat narrow-minded in a way, because to really understand what nature is to understand that we are nature. Therefore, what we do is nature. The things we create are nature. A smartphone is natural. I know, it's crazy. The division that we think is so clear of what exists prior to humans and what exists because of humans is really infused with sort of a subtle arrogance that we are these special things, that that everything we make is like unnatural. It's natural. This is all natural. This is a natural process that's happening, you know? It's like nature makes humans, and humans make plastic. Like, you are not separate. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but and that was a total tangent. But what I was saying originally was that indigenous cultures have long said that we are the stewards of planet Earth, and I think a lot of developed countries and cultures are starting to realize that too. And yet, I think there is a slight, I wouldn't say problem, but a aspect that can be improved in terms of the angle in which we approach our role as stewards. So let me kind of explain what I mean. Oftentimes in the current world, environmentalism and conservation efforts are kind of coated with this anxiety and this haste and a fear of, if we don't protect the environment, we will destroy the planet. And while that is definitely true, I think it makes people very adverse to participating in those kinds of efforts, because it's, even though obviously the intention is not for it to be harmful, there is an implicit sense of burden, of a overwhelming responsibility to protect the earth, to care for the earth. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think that when the entire movement is framed in such a way, it makes people adverse to it, or at least it makes people kind of resistant to it, resistant to engaging in it, I think, as well. So this is what I propose as the solution, and I think this is something that is kind of being realized in this time, actually, like right now, like recent, like in this past year. And that is that environmentalism is fun, and to get to be a steward of the earth is actually like a really tremendous opportunity, in my opinion. It's a blessing, in a sense, that we get it's like, it's the difference between saying we must take care of the earth, to saying we get to take care of the earth. Do you see the difference? It's like one sees it as a burden, the other sees it as a joyous opportunity. And that's how I see it. It really is. I think like that's what it is. You know? We get to. Not we have to. We get to. And just something as simple as that makes me want to get up and go plant some wildflowers. Like right now. Or get up, go to the beach, clean up plastic, right? It's like, it's an opportunity. And I think another thing is focusing on the solutions rather than the problems, just in terms of perspective. Obviously the problems are necessary in order to like know what the solutions are going to be. You need to know what the problem is, but I don't think that should be the outward image of the environmental movement, because it's not about the problems, it's about the solutions, in my opinion. I don't think the face of the environmental movement should be wildfires, should be the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, should be animals caught in plastic. I don't think it should be that. That stuff is important. It is important. But wouldn't you want to participate in it so much more if it was like, if its face, if its name, if the way in which this movement presented itself to the world was solution-based? And so instead of seeing advertisements that are fear-mongering, they're hope-mongering. That makes me want to engage in it. That makes me want to participate, right? Because then it's like a new day is dawning. The sun is rising, and you see that, and you see that glow pouring over the horizon. I do. And it makes me want to lend a hand, Really, like I think that's so important. I really do, man. Like, yeah, there needs to be a term for that. Like climate optimism. Maybe that is a term already. But it's not ignorance, It's not blind optimism. It's not sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. It's strategic, conscious optimism. It's saying, yes, there are problems. But those problems are an opportunity for solutions, for great minds to come together and have unprecedented conversations about our role on this planet, about ways in which we can do good for it, because so much of the environmental movement is like, we need to stop all the bad stuff, and we do. But what about doing good things? You know what I mean? Like, what about having a net positive impact? I feel like so much of it is like, we have a negative impact, and we need to have absolutely no impact. We need to have a zero impact. I disagree. I think that we should have an impact, and I think that it should be a positive one. An idea that I had a while back was an alternative to the idea of a carbon footprint. Maybe this is what this idea is called. A carbon footprint is technically the amount of carbon that you release during your life through the electricity you consume, through the gasoline that you use to power your car, etc., etc. Colloquially, I think it's understood as the harmful or environmentally destructive impact that a person, company, or movement organization has on the planet. It's the carbon footprint. It's like it has a weight to it. It has like this essence of like, it's imprinted into the earth. The carbon footprint. It's like a tire track. It's like a stain of coal and crude oil. And it's just a footprint. It's mechanized. It's non-personal. Enter the green fingerprint, right? I feel like I don't even need to explain it. It's the opposite of a carbon footprint. Think of what a footprint is. A footprint like leaves a mark. It leaves like a dent in the earth, But you have no way of knowing whose footprint that was, other than like maybe it was Nike or Converse, right? That's such a good metaphor, because it's like, it's not us who's leaving the footprints, It's our shoes. It's the brand. And that's all that gets remembered in that deep crater that we leave. All that's remembered is Adidas. But a green fingerprint is the opposite of that. A green fingerprint carries your unique signature, your genetic signature. And it doesn't create a dent. It doesn't leave a crater. It paints. It colors. It beautifies. I don't even know if that's a word. Probably not. It adds something. It adds a touch of you, of your unique positive contribution to the planet. Not Adidas, not Nike. You, who you are. And it's small. It's a small deed. Just one fingerprint, just a little. That's it. But you could do 100. You could do 1,000. I love that idea. I'm gonna definitely explore that more in the future. And I think that everyone should, because it's like, it's a good antidote to the, I think, fairly gloom and doom mental or collective mental understanding of, climate change and our place on the planet. It's typically very negative. I think we need a little bit of optimism. Again, not naive, but aware. An optimism that says, I see the problem as a glorious opportunity to make a positive impact and to bring something beautiful, something new to the earth. Like the guy in Everything Everywhere All at Once said it really well. I forget exactly what he said, but it was something along those lines of like, my choice to be happy is a choice. It's not naivete. It's a choice that I make because what else am I gonna do? Be miserable? You know? Life is short. You gotta I think it's important to see the good in things. To see the good and the bad, you know? Because there is good in the bad. There really is, because it's an opportunity. It's an invitation for improvement. It's a call to evolution. And ladies and gentlemen, we're facing a big one. We're facing quite possibly the greatest call to evolution in the history of this planet. And it's all on us. It's all in our hands. And we get to choose how we're going to handle this. And I have a lot of faith in our kind, to be honest. I think we get caught in these kind of echo chambers of negativity a lot of the time. But when you step out of that and you actually get into the real world, you see that like it's really not that bad, because the human spirit is good. And I think that's something that like we need to remember. There's a lot of like negativity bias on the internet. There's a lot of obsession with the dark, the macabre, the violent, the disturbing, the evil. And all that's real. All of that is part of it. It's all real. But the love is real. And the love is strong. And I think that our reaction to all of those negative things just goes to show how strong the love is, you know? The love feels pain when there is hurt, you know? And the love feels joy when there is connection, when there's life. It's like love is a compass, you know? Love is a compass towards itself. Maybe that's what the Force is, you know? Maybe it's love, because it feels eerily similar to love. And love is a crazy word because, you know, there's so many types of love, you know? There's platonic, romantic, familial, like all kinds of love. The love between you and a stranger even, you know? It's strong, and they're all different. They all feel different, but they all kind of like stem from the same trunk, the same core. I think that's what I'm talking about when I talk about this idea of the Force. Maybe not. Maybe it's something entirely different. Maybe it's like electromagnetism or something. But maybe that's the same thing too, you know? But what my point is ultimately is that there's a lot of good in the world, and there's a lot of good in the human spirit. And I think the human spirit is, its defining trait is its love, is its capacity to love, and its capacity to express that love and revel in it, and to appreciate the fact that it can love, you know? I think everything else is just what happens when barriers are built in between our hearts and the love that we know is possible. I think that's kind of all I have to say. Oh yeah, there is one more thing. I wanted to mention that I feel like people have probably heard about this, or heard of this idea that like it would be super cool to have a time when like everywhere on Earth everyone turns off their lights so that we can see the stars. I always thought that was like a beautiful idea, and I was like, oh, if only like that existed. Turns out it exists, which is crazy. I didn't even know about that, and so I feel like a responsibility as like a person with like a platform as small as it is to let people know. March 23rd, so this month, 8:30 to 9:30. I'm actually not sure if that's Eastern or Pacific Standard Time. I'll figure it out and I'll put it like right there. It's this time, this date, this time is when Earth Hour is. That's what it's called, Earth Hour. We all turn off our lights and we all look at the stars and revel in our collective home that we all share. And so with that, I will bid you farewell. I feel like this is going to end up being a long one. I'm not entirely sure. I had a lot more to say than I thought I did. Go figure. Wanted to keep this one brief, but whatever. I don't even care, to be honest. It's good. I think it's good that I ended up saying more. And yeah, I get out into nature. This is Nature Month, man. Just enjoy it wherever you are. It might be freezing. It's hot here. I was just in a freezing climate, so I'm getting the all extremes, right? So whatever you're experiencing, whether it's hot, cold, wet, dry, whatever it is, experience it and lean into it fully, because then you're gonna tap into the force. And besides that, I'll just say, yeah, remember to leave your mark, leave your green fingerprint, and maximize your green fingerprint too. Like, that's the thing. Don't worry about minimizing your carbon footprint. Worry about maximizing your green fingerprint. Seriously, it's so much more important, I think, because without going on too long of a tangent, it's just like, okay, I'm not even gonna talk. I feel like I already covered it enough. It's better to have a solution-oriented mindset than a problem-oriented mindset, in my opinion. But yeah, with that said, I feel like this is the third time I've tried to wrap it up. Yeah, just have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. Super exciting stuff in the works, like really exciting stuff. So seriously, stay tuned. You will not regret it. Big things are on the horizon. So stay tuned. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Next video comes out next Monday. If you've caught on to the pattern by now, it's every Monday. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Have a great time. Just enjoy it. All right. Bye. Peace.